Welcome to another episode of Streaming History. And today we're going to flash forward a little bit from where we've been in the past to the revolutionary period in U.S. history. And we're going to talk about, who are we talking about, Carrie?
Ceasar Rodney.
Ceasar Rodney. And I believe he's out of Delaware?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, we thank you for viewing our channel. We'll hope you subscribe or at least leave a like, and we would really appreciate any comments if you have any suggestions for us to make improvements. We would like to read any one of them, and let us go. Carrie, you want to kick it off?
All right, Ceasar Rodney. So, have you ever heard of Ceasar Rodney?
That's a founding father I haven't quite gotten to yet.
And you know what's so crazy? I bet you see him. No, I'm not even going to bet. You see him all of the time, probably every day, and you don't even realize it.
Oh no, where do I see him?
The 1999 Delaware Minted Quarter has a picture of a guy galloping on a horse.
That's
right.
You know
what I'm talking about?
Yes,
yeah.
He also did a midnight ride.
Yes, that is Ceasar Rodney. The picture of the guy riding that horse on the 1999 Minted Delaware Quarter is Ceasar Rodney. So the big question is, how did Ceasar Rodney end up on a quarter? Like, how did he get his own quarter? So the answer is, back during the Revolution, a representative from Congress galloped up to the farm of Ceasar Rodney, and he read the message, and he saddled his best mule, a nearly all-black mule named Thunder. So he got on Thunder, and then he galloped and galloped and galloped. So what was going on is he was a representative delegate from Delaware, and the Continental Congress had convened, and they needed to vote to separate from, Great Britain. But the key was they needed unanimous support from all of the states or all of the colonies in order to go ahead with such a monumental feat. So everybody was in session, and everybody was for this except for Delaware. And Delaware was in a tie vote. Now, Ceasar Rodney had left the meeting early because there were already two representatives from Delaware there, and he didn't think his presence would be missed. So he went ahead and left and went home to attend to matters of state at home. Well, now the Congress was in a tie, and they needed his vote to break the tie. So Ceasar Rodney galloped 80 miles in a terrible thunderstorm to Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, where he barges through the front door. "I declare independence." And that was the breaking tie vote that allowed the United States to break away from King George and vote for, freedom. And all because he galloped 80 miles overnight on a horse, on a mule, but because mules they lack the capacity to run themselves into the ground, so they just quit whenever they're tired. He did have to change horses. And when they did, the stable boy saddled a black stallion, and it was the fastest one he had. And he ended up galloping the rest of the 80 miles on the black stallion, whose name has been lost to history, unfortunately. But because of Ceasar Rodney's famous ride, we now experience freedom and independence.
Down to one vote.
And that's Ceasar Rodney. And there's a statue in Delaware. There's a statue in Wilmington Square, I believe, of Ceasar Rodney and his famous, mount for the evening. And so there's a big statue and the 1999 minted Delaware quarter. So the famous question is, what breed of horse was Ceasar Rodney's horse? And of course, the answer is a quarter horse.
Oh, that is bad. Only an equestrian nerd would come up with that.
Only an equestrian. But that was Ceasar Rodney. And thanks to him, we now experience the lovely taste of freedom.
Well, for our viewers, our resident historian is also a master equestrian.
Yes.
Competition winning. Okay, so what happened after that? He served in the militia, didn't he?
Oh, that is beyond the scope of my research. My research was over the horse in general. I knew that Thunder was a Belgian mule, crossbreed. He was all black.
Okay, we get it.
All right, then. Don't ask.
Okay, let's go.
My research was over the horses.
Okay. Well, at that time, the father of modern economics was writing The Wealth of Nations, which was a monumental work indicating that we need to give up this ridiculous idea of mercantilism, and we need to adopt an idea of free markets or capitalism. And that's one of the things we were able to do in the US post-revolution, is not go down the mercantilist pathway. The book was written by Adam Smith, father of modern economics, and he actually visited the US and was able to influence how we set up our economy. And it was very largely unregulated at the time. There was no income tax. There were very few taxes in general. The government was relatively small, met infrequently. And that's how we ran things for about 100 years. And then we slowly got complex enough and realized that we can supply some public goods better than the private market can make available. So at the time, the big way to ship things, especially in the Northeast, was through canals. And so the corporation was invented, and corporations at the time were highly limited. So they usually had a time stamp on them. So we're going to take 18 months to get together, pool our funds, raise funds, sell bonds, sell stocks, and use this money for specific purposes, such as digging a canal from point A to point B. And then at the end of that, the corporation would be dissolved. And we'll talk about this more as we move through history, about how that evolved into what we would call the modern day corporation, which is a very different animal. And so we had The Wealth of Nations. Now, the father of economics is a Greek gentleman named Xenophon, and we'll talk about him sometime in more detail. Any questions over economics, Carrie?
I do. So
Your favorite subject?
You were talking about how when we went to, when we came to capitalism, when we came to America, we transferred from mercantilism to capitalism. And you were talking about how the government, we didn't have, graduated income tax and stuff. Now, I know that we didn't get the graduated income tax until, way after the revolution. And I want to say maybe the late 1800s maybe the 1900s.
Right. I would say early 1900s. I'd have to look that up specifically. I'm definitely not.
I would have to. I can't tell you off the top of my head.
I'm an environmental economist, so I always have to look.
But I guess my question, did it take the government that long to get this program set up before, it was, 100, 200 years before we could get to graduated income tax? Did it take that long for it to just develop? Or were we just slow in making the transition from mercantilism to capitalism?
Well, in America, we didn't do any mercantilism that I'm aware of. That was really a British and European, right.
We didn't start out?
Right. Adam Smith published in 1776.
Okay.
And would have already been talking about and writing letters as people did at the time, corresponding with luminaries such as George Washington and Thomas Jefferson, and selling them on this idea of don't even start down this path. It doesn't lead anywhere useful. You end up with local monopolies. So let's talk about what mercantilism is real quick. That's where a local power such as the royal family in England grants a specific company or specific person a geographic area to sell their wares. So let's say you want to sell shoes, and they give you 18 blocks square in downtown London. Well, that would be a heck of a monopoly, and that would be a heck of a way to make some money. Unfortunately, what happens there is that the price goes up, quality goes down, innovation goes down, the public suffers. They could do better under a different system such as capitalism, where competition drives innovation and drives down price, providing greater efficiencies in markets for consumers. So capitalism won out in the US. And thank goodness. And my personal position is markets do some things extremely well, such as selling shoes, and it does other things very poorly, such as, say, fire protection. So we can offer services at the public level, such as fire and police protection, and pay for that with public dollars. And there we need to generate some money. So early on, it would have been sales tax, it would have been tariffs on imports, and raising money that way. And that means a very small economy, a relatively sluggish economy is how I would put it, and a relatively small government. There's just no money for government. There's no money for public services. And then crawl forward through time, as you said, and we started to realize, wait a minute, some things aren't working here. And so we could privatize a road, and it'll be a toll road, and every time you go through that road area, you get to stop and pay a toll. Well, that gets a little old. So we can raise public monies by selling bonds, etc., and then tax those people and raise money that way and pay for those public services. And then flash forward to the early 1900s, we had World War I to pay for, and basically they started the income tax. And particularly with the New Deal, we were spending public money, borrowed public money left and right, trying to get the economy kick-started again after the 29 crash. And that's really when the income tax kicked in.
Yes. All this money with all these little Delaware horses on their quarters.